Hey guys, John from Moderately OK here, and today I'm going to show you how you can make your very own Nemesis statue just like this one from the Resident Evil 3 remake.
Brad, is that you?
Listen, you gotta get out of there!
What are you talking about?
I don't have time to explain. You gotta get out of there right now!
All right, let me grab my...
So the first step is obviously to print the model. I did it on my Elegoo Saturn and my Elegoo Mars 2 Pro. I got the model from Cults 3D. I'll link both these printers and the model in the description. So the printing time on this did take about 2 days. I didn't really have any issues printing the model, but most of the issues with models like these does come with them fitting together seamlessly. So I do like to make sure everything fits together seamlessly as my first step. And if it doesn't, I use a cordless rotary tool. I will link the one that I use in the description, get it off Amazon. And I like to go through and sand everything down and ensure that it fits snugly and also that it does not leave any noticeable gaps and seam lines. Fixing them later after you're done painting would completely ruin your paint job, or at least runs a very high risk of ruining it. After ensuring everything fits together, I take 400 grit sandpaper and I run it over the entire surface. You don't want to go too hard on this because you don't want to sand out any fine details, but even though resin prints look like they come out smooth, and more often than not they do, everything can always be smoother. So I'm just trying to ensure the best finish possible. I'm also trying to sand away any of the connection points where the supports from the prints connected to the pieces as I printed them, just so that we don't have any small weird divots or anything like that on our statue. After the sanding's done, I like to go through with my airbrush and I just blow all of the dust off of the pieces. As you can see, I'm wearing gloves and I'm also wearing a respirator. You definitely don't want resin dust in your lungs at all, so make sure that you're taking those safety precautions. Now I'm gathering all the parts here that have flesh tones because we are doing flesh painting first. I'm using Game Air's elf skin. It's a little more yellow than normal flesh tones, and I'm gonna go ahead and spray that on in very light layers. Remember, airbrushing is a marathon, it's not a sprint. If you just glop it on, you could either glop on too much and cover up details, you can ruin your finish, it can run. So I have it down at about 10 to 15 PSI right now, and I'm just going in with the lightest layers possible. And I'm gonna speed it up, and you can just watch as I do that on all of the parts here repeatedly. So as you can see, I've gotten all the layers I want down on the head, and we have a very nice, solid, even coat. And I'm going to go through on the other parts where he has the flesh exposed through his limiter. I know it's a limiter, it's more like a trash bag, but you know, I do like the remake design, no matter how much I will miss the old trench coat. Anyway, I'm going through here, and I'm just hitting all those little exposed flesh parts on all of the other pieces. So now that we are done, I'm going to take a flat or matte clear, and I'm going to spray all of the flesh pieces that we have just airbrushed with a matte clear coat. This will ensure that the washes and other post-processing for the flesh that we're about to do does not rub off our paint job. You'll see that I'm just doing quick passing motions while rotating the piece. I don't want to overload it with the matte clear because it will gunk up and it will drip. Now after everything's hit with the matte clear, I do like to use a hairdryer and just go ahead and hit all of the parts with it to ensure that my clear coat is dried before the next step. Otherwise, you could be waiting a long time. So I just like to go in there and hit it with a warm little gust of the hairdryer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mix our first wash. I pour way too much water here, and you're going to see me go to pour another water, decide against it, and then mix this one up anyway. The other washes that I'm going to do, we're going to be doing more after this. You're going to see the correct consistency to use. But basically what we want to do is we want to just mix a little bit of paint with a little bit of water and make it to where you basically have a really, really runny version of that color. We're going to then mix them together, wipe away the excess so that we're not painting actual pigment on, and then we are going to take that watered down paint and apply it over the entire piece. We want to taint the flesh, and then after that we want some of the red to be retained down in those muscular parts. We're just building up colors now to really give this a realistic look, and it's gonna look really weird at first, but trust me, the end result here is worth it. So you can see that flesh is pretty tainted. It's got like a red layer over it. So I'm going to take a little sponge and I'm just going to start kind of stippling at it and brushing it off. And I'm going to take the excess and I'm going to pat it down on the paper towels. This is why I like to work on the blue shop towels, just so I can kind of use it to clean my brush when I need to, brush stuff off, clean this little sponge. But like I said, you're just going to go through, you're going to stipple it all off. You're going to get into some of the recesses, but you kind of want to leave most of the red in all of those sunken parts. We're just trying to take it off of the top, but at the same time, we're trying to stipple it so it does leave little red flecks on it because we don't want his skin color to be perfect. We want those capillaries and things like that. That's what it's going to read as after you do this. So like most of this video, I'm going to go ahead and speed it up here. Like you see there, go back and pause that. I accidentally sped that part up, but it was a small comparison of what the flesh looks like before the wash and after the wash, so you can see the big difference that these washes are going to make. I don't like to skip all of the steps here, which is why I'm just speeding up through it so you can see this entire process. I don't want to make a 5-minute video and then you get to the process and you're like, dang, that took me 3 hours. Why was this video only 5 minutes? I like to show you every step of the way. You're along with me for the long haul, the long ride. We're gonna have a good 20 minutes here together. So now that our red wash is done, I'm going to go in and I'm going to mix a blue wash with Vallejo's blue. And you see I actually got the right amount of water inside of the palette this time. So now we're going to do our blue wash. This time you will see what a wash should look like. I did get the correct consistency of paint and water this time, or as close as you can get. It's kind of a play it by ear thing. Anyway, the blue wash is going to simulate veins, other small imperfections in the skin, as you can see here. All we're doing is really trying to add dimension to our first flat layer. That's the main purpose of all of these washes. So for the next step, I am taking some of that Vallejo red and mixing it with like the smallest dot of Vallejo's black. And I'm just gonna get a little bit deeper of a red. This is not a wash. This is an actual paint that we're using here because we're going to start doing the detailing on all of those exposed muscle parts. So I'm gonna take that, and I like to have a reference on hand. You can't see it, but it is off screen. And I'm gonna just start very slowly with a very fine brush, getting into all of those gross muscles that Nemesis has exposed around his neck and his face. And all of the other flesh parts do have small divots in them. So I'm going to go into each little divot individually and paint them with this deep, deep red color. So now you can see, we've gotten in there, we have actual dimension coming in now. It's not just the flesh that we've been working on, we've actually filled in all of those details with that gross, gross deep red to simulate the exposed muscle. Now for this step, I'm going to grab some Citadel Wraithbone. We're going to be painting his teeth. So I get a very fine brush and I just very, very lightly go in and apply the Wraithbone to his teeth. The Wraithbone is kind of an ivory, but it's like an off ivory. Nemesis probably hasn't seen a dentist in a while, so we're not going to give him, like, shiny, perfect chip Skylark teeth. We're going to start with an off-white, and then we're going to go in and mess him up a little bit after that. So as you can see here, the teeth are a nice ivory color. It provides a very good contrast from the flesh tone. We're going to go in with a yellow now, and I'm going to mix up another wash. So I'm going to go in here with that yellow wash. I'm going to yellow his teeth. Something I should have done here, and this is on me. I should have definitely hit his teeth with a varnish here before I did that. Luckily, it didn't mess it up too bad. But I'm now also going to take the wraith bone there, and you saw that I dotted his eye with it. The wraith bone, because it is an off-white, is a good color for his eye since he has that like completely white eye, and that's something that I kind of gloss over in the painting process in the video, but don't forget that he does have an all-white eye. What I'm doing here is I'm just going around and making sure there's no spots I missed. I'm getting some red in there. I'm doing some little highlighting on the flesh, little low lighting. Just some standard cleanup things. All right, now we're going to add even more dimension to him. I'm going to take a gloss varnish from Vallejo. This would be basically a sealer, but you can brush it on if you're not familiar with it. I'm going to take the gloss varnish, wipe my brush off, make sure there is no color on it at all because I do not want to taint the varnish. I want this to be clear. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that gloss varnish, and the first thing I'm going to do is put it onto his eye. I'm going to put it onto his eye and then his teeth. Because maybe his teeth are shiny. I don't know. Maybe he does have shiny, gross teeth. But the most important part here is that I'm going to take the gloss varnish and I'm going to apply it to all of the exposed muscles, the exposed gashes, anywhere that we would want to be shiny and we want to simulate that it's bloody. I'm going to put this gloss varnish on, and what that's going to do, it's going to provide a very nice contrast with the matte that we have on his skin, because we want that skin to be kind of decaying flesh contrasted with this shiny bloody muscle. So you can see here that when I rotate it around, you'll see the shine on those parts, and it just looks like this disgusting exposed under the skin epidermal dermal thing. I don't know. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to go do that for all of the exposed muscle parts here. All of those parts that you painted red earlier with that deep red, go in and just hit them with this gloss varnish. good. He's looking pretty good so far. He's looking pretty good. So what we're gonna do next is I'm going to take Model Masters Chrome Silver. It is my favorite brush on silver. Nemesis has like 3 little staples on his head that are holding one of the gashes closed, and I'm just gonna go into the really fine brush and I'm just gonna get those staples. See, right there. There they are, right on the forehead. And with that, that concludes the first part of this video series. That is all you will need to do for the flesh painting. You can do some more dry brushes, some more highlights, whatever suits your fancy. I ended up doing some more. I'll go over that later. But I'll see you guys in part 2 for when we paint his limiter and accessories.